Hey guys, so I am giving you an audio excerpt of my upcoming book called Love in the Realm. I'm really excited about it, and I hope that it grabs you and entrances you like some of the other people who have had a chance to get a preview of it. And I will let you know when it will be dropping. And I appreciate all your support, and I look forward to your feedback in the comments below. All right, Sapphire out. Thanks. Introduction. Mason and Isis. A tea kettle starts to whistle on the stove. I forgot that quick that I had even put it on a few minutes ago for my special tea. It's not my favorite tea, but it's my most valued for now. Hopping off the sofa in the living room and walking briskly into the kitchen, I reach over and pluck the kettle off the stove as I turn it off. I had already placed the herbs in his favorite mug before I put the kettle on. As I poured the steaming water over the loose herbs, I read the words written on the outside of the mug. My wife says I'm too hot to hold. I've read the caption on that mug so many times I lost count over the last few years, but somehow I always manage to smile each time. Stupid, I know. I will never forget the day I handed him his morning coffee in this mug. Black, no sugar, no cream, just how he liked it. He walked out the kitchen with just his t-shirt, fitted boxer briefs on, and sat down on the sofa in the living room, staring at his latest blank canvas. As he was pulling the mug down after his first sip, he caught a glimpse of the caption on the side. By now, I had been standing in the living room archway a few seconds, quietly sipping my coffee and waiting for his response. "Really, babe?" he asked, with that slight devilish grin he usually gave me whenever I tried to dig a smile out of him on purpose. "What? I thought it was cute, Mr. Wiltz," I responded, now wearing my own little mischievous smile. "Is that so?" he responded as he stood up and started walking slowly towards me. It was moments like this that I became completely captivated by his presence. From the first day I met him, he still walked and held his posture the same exact way he did the way when we met. Head up, broad shoulders back, muscular formed chest out, staring me dead in my eyes with a glare that dared my eyes to blink or look away, not even for a second. Locking eyes with him was like willingly going into a trance and submitting to his will every time. I think what's cute is you standing there with clothes still on when you know what I'm coming for. Put that down and get on your knees now. "Are you asking or telling?" I responded, like I enjoyed doing. "You know the answer to that," he said, his eyes still locked with mine. I placed my mug on the coffee table, turned around, and slowly took a kneeling position in front of him, all the while not daring to break eye contact with him. His eyes were like a cross between hazel and brown eyes. Honestly, sometimes I believe they change colors. One day I'd see them as the most amazing light brown eyes, and another day they were almost as yellow as the eyes of a Burmese cat. They were mesmerizing to me, and I could stare in them all day and never get tired of analyzing all the highlights that existed within them. I patiently awaited his next request. "You know I love you, right?" he asked. "Yes," I responded. "You belong to me, and I belong to you. You understand that?" "Yes," I responded. He sat down on the side of the Chase lounge, right behind him, that we have in our living room. As he stares intently back at me, he takes his left hand, caresses, and cups my face. "I know we've been through a lot, Isis, but this time is different. If this is our make it or break it, then I promise you, baby, we will make it, okay?" he said as he stared at me and pierced my soul with those eyes. "But what about," I tried to utter before he placed two fingers softly over my lips. "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything except you and me. That's all I want you to focus on. I got everything else. Let me do this my way, and everything will be okay. All right? You trust me?" Not only did I trust him, I truly did believe that he could handle anything and everything. He was more than just some mere man to me. He was a Spartan man, and I was his Spartan woman, ready to go into battle with him and for him whenever he needed. But now he was telling me to stand down. Every core of my being did not want to. But one thing for sure, two things for certain. I trusted this man with my life, and I knew he meant every word he had just spoken to me. I do. I trust you. I just don't want to lose you and lose sight of all the dreams and goals we have planned, I responded. Kiss me, he said. I rose up off my knees, kissed him softly, but just as passionately as we always did. He brought his right hand up and held the side of my face as he took his lips down the right side of my face to my neck. As he moved his hand around to the nape of my neck and moved his fingers upward, he grabbed a handful of my hair softly. Isis, you were my choice, my wife. You will never lose me. Remember that. Now get up, take your panties off, and get on your back. Now. I stood up and did as he said, his eyes still intensely locked on mine. As I laid back on the sofa, he started to kiss up my inner thigh, and I started to squirm. Stop running. No more running. Do you hear me? He said sternly. I nodded yes. In that moment, I knew that he was not referring to our lovemaking that was about to begin, but to our relationship on a whole. He was informing me that the cat and mouse games in our relationship were over, and that we really were one now, complete. No more running when things got rough or difficult between us. Neither one of us was going anywhere ever again. He loved me, and I loved him. Nothing else needed to be known in that moment. There was no more I, just us. I remember that day as if it was yesterday. Memories were all I had to give me strength each day now. Soon it will be over and he will be back home, is what I kept telling myself. As I looked down into his mug, I could see that the herbs had darkened the water and the tea was ready to drink. I headed to the living room, sat the mug on the table, and grabbed his black fleece poncho off the chase. He used to hate when I used it as a blanket, even though it was warm, comfy, and big enough to be one. By now, the tea had cooled down some, so I lifted it to my lips and took a sip to test it. It was perfect temperature. I closed my eyes and drank it all down slowly. After placing the mug back on the coffee table, I took his poncho, wrapped it around my shoulders, laid down on the sofa, curled up in a fetal position, and focused on remembering his beautiful eyes and his handsome smile. I'm coming, baby. I'm coming. Chapter 1. The Realm. No matter how many times she made the trip, she never got over how dark it was when she arrived. Isis was used to traveling to the spirit realm by now, but this part of the realm was darker and deeper than other realms. Even though she feared nothing and no one, she still greatly disliked this part of the realm. To her, it just seemed more cold and more depressing than any other area of the spirit realm that she had ever frequented. She outstretched her hand and imagined a small ball of light starting to form in the middle of it. As she thought about it, the light started to slowly manifest in the palm of her hand. A slight sense of warmth started to overcome her, which she appreciated since she was a little chilly at that moment. That's better, she said aloud, in the now slightly illuminated pitch darkness. She started to walk forward steadily, sensing her way in the stifling darkness as she moved. This part of the spiritual realm was colder and darker than any of the other realms. It was a realm of involuntary imprisonment known as the Kayun realm. The other soul energies that she sensed greatly desired to be released from this realm. Some could be heard crying while others just talking to themselves to deal with the pitch darkness. In the Kayun realm, no matter how you cried or screamed, it was confined to this realm and could not be heard in any other realm. It truly was a spiritual imprisonment realm. Those who were able to find a way in of their own free will had a time restriction on how long they could remain before the realm would see them as its new resident and prevent them from leaving freely. So Isis knew the routine and focused so she could accomplish what she came to do and head back home. She kept her hands close to her body. In realms this dark, once you stick your hand out, you couldn't see it anymore, and anything could grab it in the darkness, bringing you under attack. His energy had always been easy to sense and distinguish from others down here from the first time she came to find him. She could feel him. She could feel Mason. Most of the other souls' energies that were here reeked of fear, despair, and hopelessness, while his still had a small tinge of hope, faith, and fighting that she could sense clearly. This made it much easier for her to find him and know that she would reach him swiftly, since she wanted to waste none of her allotted time before she headed back to the physical realm. As she drew closer, she could feel him so strongly. She missed feeling the two of their energies intertwining like this in the physical realm. It felt so good. She wanted to close her eyes, but she knew this wasn't the time nor the place for nostalgic memories. As she was getting closer, she decided to focus her energy into increasing the size of the ball of light that she was still holding in the palm of her hand. As the light started to grow, she saw him in the near distance and smiled at the sight of his spirit. His eyes were closed, but as she drew closer, he opened them and created a smile that mirrored hers. There he was, her love, her heart, her life partner. Oh, how she missed him this time around. "Hey, baby," she said, as she glared at him affectionately and smiled softly. "Hey, you. Miss me?" he replied with that sexy devilish grin of his. "Every second of every hour of every day, babe," Isis replied, smiling like a Cheshire cat. He loved that response, so she never failed to use it. It had been exactly 1 year and 3 months to the day since the mother of his son imprisoned Mason's soul in the Kayun realm. Isis made the trip once a month on the same day to see him and check on his soul. It wasn't easy for her to see him confined like this, but it would have been even harder not seeing or speaking to him at all in both the spiritual and physical realms. So she appreciated her time with him any way she could get it. Mason's soul looked just like he did in the human realm the last time she saw him physically. The black magic spell that had been used to imprison him had placed a noose around the neck of his soul, which kept him from being able to act of his own free will in the human realm. In the spiritual realm, his soul stood there, unable to move, only able to speak and show expressions on his face. Even though he smiled when Isis came to see him, she knew that he was doing it only for her. Having his free will taken forcibly from him had started to take a toll on him. She knew that was the last thing he wanted her to see when she came to visit him. "How are things at home?" he asked. "They're okay. I missed trash day just 1 week this month instead of the 2 weeks I did last month, so I'm getting better at remembering. And my car sounded funny when I started it last week, so I've been driving yours until I get it looked at." "Why didn't you call Tony to look at your car?" Mason asked. "I got busy at work this week and I just didn't get a chance to yet," Isis replied. "I don't want you driving that car until you get it looked at, Isis. Do you hear me? I need to know you're safe. Call Tony. He knows what's going on, and I told him to make sure you'd be taken care of, babe. Please use him, okay?" He responded with a look of concern on his face. "Babe, it's okay. I got it. I'll call him as soon as I get back. I was going to. I just got busy. Isis, what's the balance of the savings account? He asked, staring at her, ready to analyze her every body move. Enough, Isis answered, trying to break her gaze with him. I'm not going to ask again, Mason said. $19,783.43, Mr. Wiltz. I checked it before I came. We're fine. I just got a raise at work, and our online gallery sales of your prints have been pretty steady, Isis responded as she looked away into the darkness around with guilt, knowing that she should have told him the first time. Okay, good. If you need money, don't wait until the last minute to contact Mr. Reeves so he can take care of that, okay? Babe, I put these things in place to make sure you'd be okay, just in case. I don't want you to struggle or worry about how anything is going to be paid or taken care of until I come home, he said with a serious concern in his voice. You tell me this every time. I know. Everything is okay. I would tell you if it wasn't. He looked at her sternly and then softened his face with a partial smile. Sometimes I tend to forget why I fell in love with you and why you were my choice, Mason said. But I don't, Mason. Don't worry, babe. I got this. I promise you I do. Guess what I did last week, babe? Isis quickly responded, hoping to change the subject and lighten the mood. What's that? What did you do? I kicked the ass of this witch in this fairy realm who was feeding off of children, like some modern day Hansel and Gretel shit. That bitch won't be doing shit to another kid, let alone anyone anymore, Isis said proudly. Really now? And what did you do to her? Mason said, smiling devilishly. I did a spell and turned her house into one big mirror box. She won't be leaving there ever. And I cast an illusion spell so she thinks kids are in there with her running around, yet she can never catch them. That was pretty creative. You know, you could have just beheaded her and called it a day, right? He asked, grinning. You have your way, Mr. Wilton. I have mine. Mine was more strategic and thought out. Not everybody wants to just go straight to killing, Isis said with her head tilted down and her eyes looking at him. I suppose you're right, babe, he replied, looking as if he wanted to shake his head in agreement. I have to go. I'm coming up on my time limit. I don't want to get detected here and have to deal with that bitch, Isis said, looking angry yet very disappointed. I know, Mason said. I love you. I love you too. I'm coming home. Don't ever forget that, baby. I'm so tired, he said, watching her face for a reaction as he said it. Her reactions let him know whether she still had hope and faith that he would indeed make it back home one day. Yes, you are, babe. I'm getting closer to breaking this shit. I promise. I miss you, she said, holding back her desire to tear up. That level of despair would have most assuredly brought something out of the darkness to feed on her hurt and pain, and a battle that was the last thing that she needed right now, feeling like this. I miss you too. Now go, baby. Isis turned and started to walk away. They both had agreed long ago to never use the word goodbye and never look back once she started walking away, because it was just too hard. The walking away part was getting more difficult every time. As she got further and further away from Mason's energy, she felt the distance. She felt it was a good time to speak her incantation to exit and head back home. She woke up and sat on the sofa in the living room, feeling like she was missing something. She touched her legs and arms. Everything was still intact. What she left couldn't be seen, just felt. Mason, I swear you're coming home soon. I'm almost ready to take this bitch on, and I promise you I won't lose, babe, she said aloud softly. She looked over to their framed pictures together on the fireplace mantel. wrapped back up in his poncho, lie down, and try to get some rest. Time was running out, and she needed to strategize. But for now, she needed rest. Going into that part of the realm always extremely exhausted her physically. Universe, my angels, ancestors, and guides, I just want to sleep. No traveling tonight, please. Thank you for protecting me and all you do, she said as she closed her eyes. Tomorrow morning was work, grind time, so she needed her rest. I love you, Mr. Wiltz, she said as she drifted off to sleep. I love you too, baby, she could hear telepathically.